Working with Shelly was very enlightening and very positive. She was always a very positive person and a very supportive person. Whatever I wanted to do in the job, she pretty much let me go ahead and do it. Um, she was she was just a light in the independent living movement. Um, so yeah, I just there's so much I could say. I don't. I never heard her swear. She would get upset. She would say, "Oh, fudgesicle," and then we knew she was upset about something. Um, she just I don't know. She was just a beacon of light. Just a very wise person. She had a lot of wisdom, and and hopefully I took some of that wisdom with me.
Mm.
Um, going on to do this job. I hope I know her spirit is with me, and in fact, I'm getting a bracelet made that says WWSSD. What would Shelly Simmons do? Shelly prioritized things by what the community needed. That was her main concern. Um, she got a lot done in her tenure as executive director. We have 9 centers and they're all funded, and the state is fully funded now. We have, the 9 centers that do information and referral. So the whole state is covered now. Uh, when she passed, she was working on some employment issues to deal with Medicaid. I'm sad she hasn't seen that come to fruition. Um, and I don't know that it will. It's a big change from the way that Georgia does business. Um, but her priorities were what's a community. Just that I loved her and I still love her.
Yeah.
Um, I miss her greatly. That's all.
I think I have a million memories, and probably 95% of those are for little giggle. And so when you ask me this, the last 5 minutes, I've been thinking, what could I say? And literally every memory I have is of her saying something to me or asking me something, and then me answering some sarcastic way that I do. And then she would just have this little giggle, like she didn't know whether to believe me or like, "What, are you serious?" But she would giggle. And then she would give me a little nod. And so, whether it was, doing the opening speech here every year, or when she first asked me to be on the board, taking me to lunch. And it was just always her story was incredible. And I loved being around her. She was the most amazing person to be around. When I was writing my speech today, I thought that she'd been here for a couple of decades. And like 8 years it seems like she was here forever. It seems like she built, the largest empire that she could for people like her. And for my daughter that has Down syndrome, putting her first as well. It wasn't just being there in wheelchairs, it was anybody with differences. So I think that inclusivity mindset that she had, her legacy should be the fact that she just led that on everybody that she was ever around.
My name is Etrudy Taylor Mitchell. I'm the CEO of a uh, nonprofit called Hold a Collective. And really and truly, when I started, someone said, "You need to Shelly." I'm like, well, who is Shelly? So I was introduced to her, and she became my mentor as a new CEO of a nonprofit that our mission is affordable housing for the intellectual and developmental disability. And we're not developing anything. We're just wanting to work through the system in getting adults with intellectual disability. So during that time, we met virtually. And probably a year after we met virtually, we were invited to this event. And that was the first time I met Shelly. And then she was very gracious. And when I created my board, to loan me one of her employees. And she said, I want you to, she's going to hold the space until we hire a new housing coordinator. And so at the moment, her housing coordinator sits on my board. And we talked, we didn't interface in person that much. She would always say, where are you? What are you doing? Have you completed all your paperwork? Are you getting out? And networking. And she was just the most gracious person. Take me under her wings. She didn't know me. And push me forward to create this nonprofit that I'm passionate about. And I know it was not a mistake for her to transition, but we will all miss her. I'm trying not to cry. But we will all miss her. But, I understand, I understand. She left. She talked to me about being an executive, about, the leadership. So much. She was always asking me questions through email and text. And like I said, last year at this time was my very first time. And we, our family would not be any place else tonight, to celebrate her legacy.
When I think of Shelly, the first thing that I think of is how grateful I am for the opportunity that I was given. She really made me feel seen for what I had to offer, not any barriers that I might face. Before getting the position at SILCGA, I did 69 job interviews, or I should say Silk was my 69th job interview. And so after you go through that process for so long, it can just feel very disheartening and defeating, because I had experiences where I would do the phone interview and everything would go great. And then we'd meet in person, and some companies would even say, like, are you sure this is your resume? And we really spoke on the phone when they saw the chair. And something that was so different from me was when I came into the office, of course, Shelly and Becky were there, and they were in chairs themselves. And so even just that experience of being interviewed by women in leadership that are also in wheelchairs themselves just made me feel so empowered. And then when Shelly did give me the call, those of you that know me know I'm a little too vocal and affectionate sometimes when I speak. And she let me know that I got the offer, and I was like, oh, Miss Shelly, thank you so much for the opportunity. I promise I'll do whatever I can to not let you down. And I've really been praying so hard for this. And her response to me was, well, we've been praying too, and we know this is the right decision. So that just made me feel so empowered as well. Lee's legacy is just that we are not alone in anything that we face. And not only that, but to go into spaces where you may not always feel welcome. And the reality is, there may be times where you faced a little bit of uncomfortability in whatever space you are in. That's just a reality when you're working with entities that are not as familiar with our community, right? But being the face, putting yourself out there, giving somebody real world examples, and being somebody that people want at their table where they can go, oh, if we don't have this at the table, this person won't be welcome. We need to make changes to implement that so that they can be there, because if they can't be at the table, then we need a different table. And I think that that is something Shelly brought to everybody that interacted with her. Like, to know her, to experience her, was to want her to be included and to want the individuals like her to be included. So I think that that's her legacy. And also for me, because Shelly was the first person to give me the opportunity, any success that I had, both while she was with us, but long after she's not here, every future accomplishment that I have, she's an integral part of that. Because if she hadn't given me the opportunity, I wouldn't have gotten to the place where I'm able to participate in the way that I am. So she lives on in all of us. Another thing that this experience has taught me that is just really important is, don't waste time. Don't be afraid to tell people how you really feel about them and the way that they impact your life. One of the things that I'm very grateful for, like I said, I'm really affectionate a little bit, but every time I would leave a staff meeting or leave a conversation after I'd worked for Shelly for a couple of years and she knew who I was in person, I was always able to tell her that I loved her before I left. And she would say, of course I love you too. But there's such a gift and a beauty in that. And there's still parts of her that I never got to see that I wish I could have, because we only were around each other in professional settings. So I would have loved to have seen the fun, loving person that I know she was in those settings as well. So just whatever fears you may have about connecting or how you're singing or how it'll be interpreted, I would just say take the risk, because in my experience, it is more helpful than it is far.
I knew Shelly beyond the silk. Shelly was like, our relationship was like iron sharpening iron. Like we constantly, if when people saw us together, we were like bickering sisters, but we saw in each other what the other was not putting out, like all we could be. I saw, like, we met after I had a brain injury. Yeah, and I focused a lot on what I couldn't do, and she would help me think about what I could do. And then once I got to the point where, oh, okay, I see it. Like, it was like what I love the most, psychology. It was like, tackle what you can do. It was like reverse. And when I noticed that she was doing exactly what she had told me to work through, I would be like, no, sis, and I didn't call her sis. So yes, I did sometimes, but in my phone, she's Bookie because she was my Bookie. She was my Shell Bill or Shelly Shell, and I am, yeah, it was, it was not easy because when you have two people that see each other beyond the mask, it was, it was like iron sharpening iron. Like I knew that we were divinely connected at the right time when we needed each other the most. And it was um it was everything that we both needed in those moments, you know? And yeah, yeah, it's it's good for someone to see you beyond what you're putting out. Her life has taught me, even the last day, like me being there, us talking from 8 to 12, like having that connection and the things that she saw in me, I saw in her. And what I learned from that connection is when you're truly open, like not hiding behind a mask or being who people want you to be, and not making your life palatable for other people, you see one another on a divine level that most people don't get the opportunity to because they're conforming to a norm. She just taught me never to be limited based on someone else's perception of where I should be. And because I said it, but I didn't actually do it until she and I really, until we really opened up, like really sharpened each other, you know? It was our openness and consistency that built trust. So yeah, I yeah, that's she taught me to be who I am. And that day she told me to be that person. And I received that. And, and I am demanding myself daily to live out loud because she said she understood what I was saying. And that means so much more than I can even express, you know?
Miss Shelley was, as everyone who had the pleasure of meeting her, was a wonderful woman. I had the opportunity to first meet her when she was interviewing me for the job at SILCGA as the Housing Policy Coordinator. And I remember being very intimidated by this lovely woman initially because she was very professional during the meeting and I was second guessing everything I said. And that was ironically completely the opposite of her personality as I got to know her as the years went by. She was always caring, always wanted to make sure that her employees were doing the best that they could to help consumers with disabilities, but making sure that they were doing all right themselves. So yeah, she was truly a wonderful director and she will be sorely missed. There was a gentleman who he worked in our office building, I believe Mr. Brown. And he had always assisted Miss Shelley when she was entering or exiting the office building during the week. And they became very close in, the professional nature and, always had fantastic things to say. And Miss Shelley one time heard that he wasn't enjoying his housing situation very much, living with roommates, being at a near retirement age, and I wanted to ensure that he had basically a safe and comfortable spot for himself. So We worked with some of our partners to find him a space in one of the properties through LDG that he was comfortable with, that was in his price range, affordable, and has accessibility for if he were to ever need it. And yeah, to my knowledge, he is moved on in and has been enjoying his stay there thus far. So, things like that, Miss Shelly going out of her way to assist people was definitely not something that was out of the blue with her.